She kissed him, with my ring on her finger. My best friend sent the video. No warning. 9 seconds destroyed for years. She came home laughing. I watched it 4 times. Then I slid the phone to her. She said it meant nothing. I said, I counted. It was 5 seconds. I still married her. Here's why. My best friend sent me the video without a warning. No text before it. No context. Just a clip, 9 seconds long, and my fiancé's face when she pulled away from someone else's mouth. I watched it twice. Then a third time. Not because I needed to be sure. Because my brain kept refusing to accept that the girl in that video was the same one who cried at our engagement dinner because she said she'd never been this happy. My name is Drew, and 48 hours ago, I was picking up a wedding cake deposit. Marcus sent it at 11:47 p.m. on a Friday. I was watching a game. I had a beer going cold on the coffee table. The kind of night that feels safe exactly because nothing in it can hurt you. Then my phone lit up. Marcus and I have been friends since 3rd grade. He doesn't play pranks. He doesn't send random videos. So when his name appeared on my screen with no message, just a file, I already felt something shift in my chest before I even hit play. The video was shot from across a bar. Whoever filmed it was far enough away that it almost looked accidental. Almost. But the camera held steady on Kayla's face the entire time. Which means whoever held that phone made a choice. She was in the middle of a group. Pink sash. Veil. The full bachelorette setup we'd laughed about together 3 weeks ago when she was planning it with her friends. She'd shown me the sash and done a little spin in the kitchen, and I'd kissed her and said she was going to be the most beautiful bride anyone had ever seen. In the video, a guy put his hand on her jaw. She let him. Then she kissed him back. For seconds. 5. And then she laughed. And he said something. And she shook her head like she was embarrassed. But not like she was horrified. Not like someone who'd just made a terrible mistake and knew it immediately. More like someone who'd done something they knew they shouldn't and decided in real time that it was fine. I put the phone face down on the couch. I picked up the beer. Took a long pull. Set it back down. I picked the phone back up and watched it a 4th time. I called Marcus. He picked up on the first ring, which meant he'd been waiting. Which meant he'd been sitting somewhere with his own phone, knowing what he'd just sent me, knowing I was about to come apart. You saw it, he said. Not a question. Where did you get that? Danny sent it to me. Danny was Marcus's girlfriend. She hadn't gone to the bachelorette party, which meant someone who had gone sent it to her, which meant at least 2 people in Kayla's circle already knew and were already deciding what to do about it. Who was he? I don't know him. Nobody knows him. Bar guy? Random. Random. Like that made it better. Like the fact that he was nobody made it smaller. Does she know anyone has this video? Silence. Long enough that I already had my answer. Marcus. Danny thinks no. But Drew, listen to me. You can't just sit on this. She gets home tomorrow morning. I know when she gets home. So what are you going to do? I didn't answer because I genuinely didn't know. My body was still running on some kind of autopilot where my voice sounded normal and my hands were steady, but somewhere behind my sternum, there was a sound like something tearing very slowly along a seam that had been holding everything together for 4 years. I'll figure it out, I said. Drew, I'll figure it out. I hung up. She got home at 10:15 the next morning. I heard her key in the door. I was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee I hadn't touched. I'd been up since 5 a.m. I'd spent most of the night going somewhere between rage and a specific kind of grief that doesn't have a clean name. The grief of watching something you were certain about become a question. She came through the door laughing at something on her phone. That was the first blow. Not that she'd done it. Not the video. The laugh. The ease of it. She hadn't come home quiet. She hadn't come home careful. She'd come home the way you come home, when nothing has changed and everything is fine, and the world you left is exactly the world you're returning to. She saw me at the table, and her face did this thing. This small recalibration. Like she'd walked into a room expecting warmth and found a temperature she didn't recognize. Hey, she said. Slower now. Hey. She set her bag down. Looked at me. You okay? And there it was. The question that let her play innocent if I stayed quiet. The off-ramp. And I had spent 6 hours deciding whether to take it or not. Whether to pretend I hadn't seen it. Whether to let it sit somewhere dark and quiet and slowly poison everything from the inside, because at least the surface would still look the way it was supposed to. I put my phone on the table and slid it toward her. The video was already open. She didn't move for a full 3 seconds. Then she picked it up, watched it, and I watched her watch it. Watched her face do something I'd never seen it do before. A rapid sequence of calculations that someone does when they're not deciding whether to tell the truth, but deciding how much of it. She put the phone down. Drew, don't start with my name. She stopped. Just tell me what happened. She pulled out the chair across from me and sat down and folded her hands on the table like she was about to give a presentation. It was stupid. It didn't mean anything. I was drunk and he came up to the group and he was flirting with everybody, and then it just happened. It was 4 seconds. 5, I said. I counted. She flinched. Did you know him? No. Had you met him before? No, Drew, I promise. Don't promise me things right now. Just answer the questions. She went quiet. Her eyes were getting wet. And I want to tell you that I felt something soften. When I saw that, I want to tell you that it didn't matter. But I'm not going to lie because the whole point of this is that I'm done with things that aren't true. I did feel something soften, and I hated myself a little for it. Did anything else happen? No. Fast. Too fast. Almost, but also. The kind of fast that comes from someone who knows. The one true thing they have left is that it didn't go further, and they're terrified of you not believing it. Did your friends see it? Her jaw tightened. Some of them. And nobody thought to say anything to you? Nobody pulled you away or… They thought it was funny, she said quietly. Some of them did. Bachelorette party. Last night of freedom. The whole. I know how that sounds. I know. Last night of freedom. I stood up. Not because I had somewhere to go. Just because. Sitting still stopped being something my body could do. That's not how you talked about this. I said. That's never been how you talked about us. It wasn't how I was thinking. I wasn't thinking. That's exactly the problem, Kayla. She cried for a long time after that. I let her. Not out of cruelty, but because I'd spent all night earning the right to my own silence, and I wasn't ready to fill it yet. I stood at the kitchen window and looked at the street and tried to find some solid ground inside myself and kept coming up empty. Because here's the thing nobody tells you about a moment like this. It's not just about the kiss. The kiss is almost the smallest part of it. The kiss is the surface evidence of every question that now lies underneath it. Questions like, did she hesitate before she did it? Did she think of me and do it anyway? Has there been other moments like this that I don't know about? Is this who she is when I'm not there? Is the version of her that I'm marrying the real one? Or is it just the careful one? And the cruelest question of all, would I ever have known? If Marcus hadn't sent that video? How many people have this? I asked. She wiped her eyes. I don't know. Guess. At least 3 girls from the party. Maybe more. I didn't know anyone was recording. But they were, she repeated, like she was saying it to herself for the first time. So our wedding is in 6 weeks. I said. And right now there are at least 3 people who have video of my fiancé kissing someone else at her bachelorette party. And they're all deciding what to do with it. Or they've already done something with it. Because Danny already has it. And Danny told Marcus. And Marcus told me. I turned away from the window. So I want you to understand that this isn't just between us anymore. This is already a story that exists in the world without you. The color drained from her face. I didn't think about that, she whispered. No, you didn't think about a lot of things. She asked me not to leave. 3 times. Each time a different version of the same request. Each time with a slightly different argument attached to it. The first time she said we needed to talk more. The second time she said she was scared. The third time she said that if I loved her I would stay and work through it with her right now. That third one I had a problem with. Don't use love as a lever, I said. Don't tell me that staying proves I love you. Because I've been proving I love you for 4 years and you spent last night not thinking about it. She didn't have an answer for that. I grabbed my keys and my jacket and I left. Not forever. I didn't know what forever meant yet. But I needed air that she wasn't in. I drove to Marcus's place. He opened the door, took one look at me, and said, "Come in." No questions. Just space, which was the right thing. We sat in his living room with the TV off, and I told him everything she'd said, and he listened, and when I was done, he didn't try to summarize it or fix it or tell me what to do. He said, "What do you need right now?" And I said, "I don't know. I don't know what I'm supposed to need." Danny came in from the kitchen with 2 beers and set them down and said, "For what it's worth, I'm sorry I sent it. I went back and forth all night. I didn't know if it was the right thing. It was, I said, and I meant it. Because as much as part of me wished I could go back to that couch and that cold beer and that safe, ordinary night, I knew that ignorance wasn't actually safety. It was just a different kind of damage, slower and quieter, and in some ways worse. What are you going to do about the wedding? Marcus asked. I took a long pull of the beer. I don't know yet. You have 6 weeks. I know how long I have. Her dress is paid for. The venue is paid for. Your families are. Marcus. I set the bottle down. I know all of that. All of that is real, and it's a lot, and it's not nothing. But none of that is the question. The question is whether I can stand in front of people I love and make a promise to someone I'm not sure I know anymore. And I can't answer that today. I'm sorry. I just can't. He nodded. Didn't push. She texted me 4 times that afternoon. The first one said she was sorry. The second one said she loved me. The third one said she'd been sitting in the apartment alone and she was scared she'd ruined everything and she needed me to know that she didn't want anyone else, that she'd never wanted anyone else. That whatever that night was, it wasn't about him, it was about her being stupid and reckless, and she would spend however long it took making it right if I'd let her. The fourth one said she'd called her mom. That one hit differently, because Qley doesn't call her mom for small things. Qley calls her mom when she's genuinely fallen apart. And part of me felt something at that, something I didn't know what to do with. I didn't text back, not because I was punishing her, but because I didn't have words yet and I wasn't going to send something half-formed, just to fill the silence. I drove home at 9 p.m. She was on the couch, red-eyed. She'd changed out of her bachelorette weekend clothes into an old sweatshirt of mine, and that detail landed somewhere complicated in my chest. She looked up when I came in, didn't say anything, didn't rush at me or start talking. She just waited, like she understood for the first time that the next move wasn't hers. I sat down, not next to her, across from her. I need to say some things and I need you to just listen, I said. She nodded. I'm not breaking up with you tonight. I'm not calling off the wedding tonight. I don't know what I'm doing yet, and I'm not going to pretend I do. I looked at her. But I need you to understand what you actually did. Not the kiss. Forget the kiss for a second. What you did is you let me build something. For 4 years. You let me invest everything I had into a future with you. You stood in my mom's kitchen last Christmas. And you cried because you said you couldn't believe how lucky you were. You did that. And then you stood in a bar wearing a veil with my ring on your finger, and you made a choice. She was crying again, silent this time. I'm not saying it's unforgivable. I don't know yet if it's unforgivable. But I need you to stop telling me it meant nothing. Because it meant something. It meant that in a moment when you had every reason to stop, you didn't stop. And I have to figure out what to do with that. She wiped her face with the sleeve of my sweatshirt. And then she said something I wasn't expecting. She said, "You're right. And I know that. Sorry isn't enough right now. But I need you to know that I know that. I'm not going to ask you to fast forward through this. I'm not going to tell you what to feel or how long it should take. I did something that wasn't small, and I'm not going to pretend it was. I need you to know that I see you. And I'm terrified. And I don't know how to fix this. But I'm not going to stop trying to." The room was very quiet after that. I sat with it for a long time. We didn't sleep in the same bed that night. Not because either of us announced it. Just because. When it got late, I stayed on the couch, and she didn't ask me to move, and that was somehow the most honest conversation we had all day. I stared at the ceiling for a long time, thinking about the deposit on the cake, the suits I'd already had altered, my dad, who'd pulled me aside 2 months ago and said he'd never seen me this sure about anything, and that made him sure too. Thinking about whether certainty is something that happens to you or something you build, and whether the building part means you can build it again after someone has knocked part of it down. Thinking about every couple I'd ever known who had a moment like this and either survived it or didn't, and whether the ones who survived it were stronger or just more practiced at looking away. Thinking about the way she'd said "I see you," and whether that was the most true thing she'd said all day or whether I was just desperate enough to want it to be. 2 days later, I called a therapist. Not couples therapy, just me, because I needed to talk to someone who didn't have a stake in the outcome. Marcus loved me and wanted to protect me. Qley loved me and wanted to keep me. My mom would catastrophize. My dad would go quiet in that way that meant he was furious but trying not to be. I needed someone who would just ask me the right questions. The therapist was a woman named Dr. Osei. She had a small office with good light, and she let me talk for 20 minutes without interrupting, and when I finally stopped, she said, "What are you most afraid of?" I said, "That I'll forgive her and be wrong." She said, "And what's the other fear?" I didn't answer right away, because I hadn't fully named it yet. Then I said, "That I won't forgive her and be wrong about that too." Dr. Osei nodded like that was the most honest thing anyone had said to her all week. The wedding didn't get called off, but it did get postponed. Kayla and I made that decision together on a Tuesday night 3 weeks later, after more conversations than I could count, after one night where I drove away and didn't come back until morning, after one night where she screamed at me that she was tired of being on trial, and I screamed back that she was the one who built the courtroom. We postponed it by 4 months. We told both families it was a venue issue. We told almost nobody the truth. The people who already had that video probably guessed. I didn't ask. I started seeing Dr. Osei every week. Kayla started seeing her own therapist 2 weeks after that. We started couples therapy the month after. 3 separate offices. 3 different conversations about the same fault line. Some days I looked at her across the dinner table and felt exactly what I'd always felt. Some days I looked at her and felt a distance I couldn't measure. Both things were true at the same time. Both things are still true. I'm writing this 8 months after Marcus sent me that video. We got married 6 weeks ago. Small ceremony. 30 people instead of the 120 we'd originally planned. My dad cried. Kayla's mom cried. Marcus was my best man, and he held my shoulder right before I walked out and said, "You sure?" And I said, "No, but I'm here." And he said, "That's enough." I don't know if it was the right decision. I know that I made it clearly. I know that I made it without pressure and without pretending the thing that happened didn't happen. I know that the woman I married has spent 8 months showing me, not telling me, not performing for me, but showing me who she is when things get hard. I know that people are complicated. I know that one moment doesn't always define a person. I know that the same is true in both directions, that a moment can break something permanently and that it doesn't always have to. I don't know which one this is yet. Maybe I won't know for years. Here's what I'll leave you with. Somewhere tonight, there's a couple that's perfect on paper. Happy photos, good apartment, real love, and one of them is carrying something the other one doesn't know about. A moment, a decision, a 5-second video that exists on somebody's phone and hasn't been sent yet. And the question that keeps me up at night isn't about Qley. The question is about all of us. About what we actually owe each other when we make a promise. About whether a promise is a destination or a daily choice. About whether forgiveness is a virtue or a vulnerability. About whether the people who stay are braver than the people who leave, or whether they've just decided that imperfect and present is worth more than starting over clean. I chose to stay. I'm not asking you to agree with me. I'm asking you to sit with the question long enough to know what you would have done. Really done. Not the answer that makes you feel good about yourself. The true one. Because if you're certain you know, you've probably never been tested.